Welcome back. We're going to look at blanket stitch and buttonhole stitch in this video and the difference between the two, because there is a difference. So let's start with blanket stitch. So this is what it looks like here. Really nice edging stitch or a decorative stitch. You can do lots with this stitch and we'll do some more videos on that. But this is just the basic stitch in this one. And you don't have to do it on a counted fabric, by the way, it's just helps me to show you the stitch. You can do it on any kind of fabric. So we'll start with the blanket stitch. So you want to come up where you want it to start, in the bottom left hand corner is where to start this stitch. This can be a bit tricky about people not sure where to start. So the bottom left hand corner, so we're starting here with this one, and you can decide how wide apart you have them. I'm going to make it a couple of holes in this instance, so across a couple and up a couple. And we're going to go down at the top of the stitch. Leave yourself a loop, and we're going to come back up inside that loop, so don't pull that thread tight. And I'm going to come up in kind of the bottom right hand corner of what's making half of a square there. You can see that lines up with that top point there. Bring that thread through, and I'm going to tension it by pulling it towards me. It makes a backwards L shape, like so. So we started there, down there, back up there inside that loop. I'm just going to continue that pattern. So I'm going to keep it held towards me, going back down at the top for the next stitch. Each one's connected to the previous one. So now on the next stitch, back up on this bottom line here, in line with that one and in line with the top. But inside that loop, bring your needle out and tension it into that backwards L shape. That's all there is to it, really. So it's just about getting a nice tension on those stitches, starting in the bottom left hand corner. And this is a blanket stitch, so this would have originally been used to edge blankets with. A nice wide one. You can neaten up the edges of large pieces of stitching. Just cut that knot off. Do one more for you. So there's the bottom left of my stitch, down at the top, make yourself a loop, come back up inside the loop, bottom right corner, so in line with that one and in line with that one. Tension it towards yourself. If you don't tension it towards yourself, you get a kind of a cross stitch, so make sure you tension it the right way to get those L shapes. Now let's talk about buttonhole stitch. So we work it in exactly the same way, but buttonhole stitch, as the name implies, was used to work around buttonholes. So it needed to be really nice and tight so that the buttonholes didn't fray and they were really strong. So buttonhole stitches work very close to each other. So I'm actually going to pierce that fabric there. So exactly the same process, but these stitches are next to each other now. So still tensioning it downwards, in at the top, make your loop, back out at the bottom, but inside that loop, tension it towards yourself. And you can see these stitches are forming more of a block of stitches now. This is what would go around the button hole to make it nice and secure. So even though they're worked in the same way, they do have a different name depending on how they look. So the wide one is your blanket stitch, close to there, and your narrow one is your buttonhole stitch. So a distinction there to try and remember if you can. I'll just work a little bit more of that so you can see how it looks. Inside the loop, pull it down towards yourself to tension it. And then I'll just show you how to finish as well. We start in the bottom left and we finish in the bottom right. So you finish coming up in your loop, you pull that tight, but until you stitch this thread down, there's nothing holding that. This stitch is still loose, so you must finish that stitch off. And all you need to do, very easy, just down the other side of that loop there. Try and do that so you can see it. There's the loop, down the other side, just to catch that loop in and finish that off. just do the start and the finish one more time. So to start, bottom left, to finish, bottom right, just going over the loop, just catch that loop down with that thread, like so. Do little individual ones. Bottom left to start, bottom right to finish, and just catch that loop down. This is quite good for right-handed stitchers because you're going from left to right. If you're left-handed, you can swap it around, go right to left, and you'll end up your L shapes the other way around. So one more. Catch the loop down to finish. And there you have your stitch. So we have blanket stitch and buttonhole stitch.